A multimodal text is a text that draws on different modes to make meaning. A mode is the means by which the communication is inscribed, whether audiovisual, oral, or written. All communication is inherently multimodal as we draw on different channels to communicate meaning. Multimodal texts use linguistic, oral, visual, gestural, and spatial conventions to convey and subvert meaning. When we approach a multimodal text, we must be aware of the elements the composer has chosen and how they have been placed within the frame of the text. Linguistic features are the units and patterns of language, the written words, whether they are digital or printed. Linguistic features provide content, dialogue, and description within a text, while also evoking emotion through metaphors and figurative language. Visual features are the elements depicted in an image, including the use of color, viewpoint, and position. Visual features move across cultural and linguistic barriers, bridging the gap between word and image. Oral features are any audible sound, how it is produced, how we hear it, and how we interpret it. The use of voice, music, and pace can enhance the relationship between the text and the audience, creating distance, affinity, inclusion, exclusion, and empathy. Gestural features are the actions that have observable, intended meanings, which are dependent on purpose, context, and facial expression. Gestures help us to understand character and emotion in a text through the size and speed of the movement, which indicates attitude and mood. Finally, multimodal text can use spatial features, 2D and 3D representations of place, organization, and layout. Spatial features also describe how aspects of the text are positioned, distributed, and related, creating formality, intimacy, engagement, or detachment. You must remember to be aware of the way the composer has placed each element within the text as it creates certain meanings. When analyzing a multimodal text, we are called to examine all the different features of the text and how they have been used to create meaning. Multimodal analysis is beneficial to the language learning classroom as it encourages the diversity in textual understanding. By encouraging students to explore how different features of a text create meaning, we enable them to make connections between the modes, enhancing their communicative ability and understanding. Intertextuality describes how one text may draw upon or resemble the characteristics of another text. Intertextuality can take many forms. It can be as simple as a composer referring to another text in their work to subtle allusions through symbolism, images, and conventions. Intertextuality can also be a reinterpretation of a text into a new setting. For example, an artist translating a famous painting into a public feature wall, or the subversion of a fairy tale trope in a children's film. However, it must be recognized that some intertextual references are culturally specific and may require research to determine what meaning the composer was seeking to convey. This is especially important in the language learning classroom, as the personal context of the author being considered may be very different from the personal context of the students. There are three main types of texts that composers can draw upon when adding intertextual references. These are irretrievable texts, historical and current language resources, beliefs, and issues; identifiable texts, texts that are recognizable by their style, register, genre, form, and content; and retrievable texts, any reported voices, questions, and allusions available in the community for the composer and responder to draw upon. Intertextuality is essential to determining meaning in a text. No text is created within a vacuum. Every text we see, read, or hear will influence our future meaning making and how we perceive other texts. In the language learning classroom, this means being aware of the ways students from different language backgrounds may perceive and interpret intertextual references and the cultural ideologies that will influence their writing.